Okay, so today we're diving into some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's
We're looking at When Nietzsche Wept,
okay.
but not the novel itself, actually.
right.
We've got like excerpts from this really in-depth analysis of it. Have you
Yeah.
ever read this?
I have, yeah, When Nietzsche Wept.
It's by Irvin Yalom, right?
Irvin Yalom, yeah.
He's a psychiatrist.
Yeah, he actually still is.
Oh, is he?
He's still alive. Yeah, he's in his 90s.
Wow, that's amazing.
He's still writing and publishing. Yeah.
So in this book, he imagines like this fictional meeting between, who is it, Friedrich Nietzsche
Nietzsche
and
Josef Breuer.
Josef Breuer. And this is in like 19th century Vienna, right?
Yeah, late 1800s Vienna. Think about that setting for a second.
Oh, wow.
You've got like the birth of psychoanalysis, all these new ideas about the mind, and you know, Nietzsche, this philosopher who was wrestling with these huge questions about existence, about feeling.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine like those conversations?
Oh, I mean, that's what Yalom tries to do. He like puts you right there in the room with them.
Yeah, and what's really cool is how he manages to blend like philosophy and psychology.
Yeah, I mean, he takes these like really complex Nietzschean concepts, and you know, you don't have to be a philosophy professor to understand them.
Exactly.
He makes them relatable. He shows how they connect to like everyday human experiences.
Okay, so like give me an example.
Okay, so one of Nietzsche's big ideas is this thing called the eternal recurrence.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And it's this idea that like we might live the same life over and over again for eternity, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty intense when you think about it.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but in the novel, Yalom uses this idea as a way for Breuer
Okay.
to confront his own regrets, his own past,
Oh, I see.
and to like make changes in his life.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's like if you knew you were going to live the same life again and again,
Yeah.
would you do anything differently?
Oh, that's a great question.
It really makes you think, right?
So tell me more about these two characters.
All right, so you've got Nietzsche,
Yeah.
this brilliant but tormented philosopher.
Right. What was he struggling with specifically?
Well, for one thing, he was really isolated. He had some physical ailments too, migraines, bad eyesight, and I think he just felt like nobody understood him.
Like his ideas were just too radical for the time.
Exactly. He was way ahead of his time. Then you've got Breuer, who was, well, he was a successful physician, but he was also going through something.
Really?
Yeah, he was kind of like disillusioned with his life. He had this sense of like emptiness.
Huh.
So here you have these two guys, completely different backgrounds, different fields,
Yeah.
but they're both grappling with these like really fundamental human questions.
Like, what does it all mean?
Yeah, like what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What is my purpose?
And they're in Vienna at this time when, I mean, wasn't Vienna like a center for intellectual thought?
Oh yeah, like late 19th century Vienna was like, it was the place to be as you were interested in ideas.
Like everyone was there.
I mean, you had Freud, right? He makes a little cameo in the book.
Oh, that's right.
And all these other thinkers and artists and writers.
So it's just like this melting pot of new ideas, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that context is really important because it shows that even these like brilliant minds, they didn't have all the answers.
Yeah, I mean, they were figuring it out as they went along.
Just like we are today.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what I find, really interesting about this book is how
Yeah.
these two characters, they actually help each other through dialogue, right?
Right. It's not just like,
It's not like they're just arguing with each other.
No.
They're actually having these deep, like meaningful conversations.
yeah, they open up to each other, they become vulnerable.
They're really honest with each other, yeah.
It makes you think about the power of like just talking things through, you know?
Yeah, and how it can lead to self-discovery. I mean, have you ever had a conversation with someone where you just like,
Oh, absolutely.
you just feel like, wow, I learned something about my thoughts.
Yeah, like a real heart-to-heart.
Exactly. And it's not always easy, right, to be that vulnerable.
No, it takes courage.
But I think that's what Yalom's getting at in this book. It's like, that's how you grow, right?
Yeah. This is where the novel goes beyond just like the intellectual stuff.
Okay.
Yalom really gets into the emotional side of things. Like these characters, they're dealing with existential dread, right?
Oh, yeah. I think we can all relate to that feeling at times.
Absolutely, that sense of meaninglessness, the fear of death.
And it's scary stuff,
Yeah.
but it's real.
And I think, a lot of people try to avoid those feelings.
Yeah, for sure.
But Yalom's saying, no, you got to face them head on.
You can't run away from them.
Exactly. You have to confront your fears, your anxieties.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you can really start to live a meaningful life.
And what's really interesting, too, is that, these two characters,
Yeah.
they come from such different worlds.
Right.
You know, one's a philosopher, one's a doctor.
Yeah, and they have these very different approaches to life.
But they find this common ground.
They do, yeah, through their struggles.
Right, exactly.
And I think that's really powerful, that you can connect with someone on such a deep level.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter where you come from or what you believe in.
Right.
We're all human, right? We all have these same basic fears and desires.
Exactly. And that's something that Yalom, he emphasizes throughout his work.
Yeah, that human connection.
Yeah, the importance of relationships and
Yeah.
this idea that, like, we can learn and grow from each other.
And that, like Breuer says in the book, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Yeah, it's a classic quote.
But I think, Yalom really brings it to life in this novel.
He shows us how challenging that process can be.
Right, self-examination is not easy,
No,
but it's so rewarding.
it can be, yeah, if you're willing to do the work.
And I think this book, it really encourages us to do that work, right?
It does. It kind of like gives you permission to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
To, really look at yourself.
And to ask those big questions.
Yeah, the question that we often try to avoid.
Yeah, and after reading this, it makes me want to, like, go grab a friend.
Oh,
And
yeah.
just start a deep conversation.
Me too.
And really try to, like, understand each other.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
And I think that's a great takeaway from this book, right?
It is, and it makes you think, like, if you could have a conversation with any historical figure,
Oh, wow.
who would it be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, who would you choose?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, me too. There are so many possibilities.
But I think that's a great exercise,
It is.
to think about, like, who would you want to talk to and what would you ask them?
Yeah. What are those burning questions that you have about life, about history, about, the universe?
Exactly. And maybe, when Nietzsche Wept can be a starting point for those conversations.
Yeah, it's definitely a book that makes you think.
It does, and it encourages us to engage in these dialogues, not just with others, but with ourselves.
Right, to really examine our own lives.
Yeah, to confront our anxieties.
To embrace our vulnerability.
Yeah, and ultimately to find meaning in our own unique journeys.